Harley-Davidson is facing a problem no one can fix, and it is sitting right at the dealer desk. The bikes still look good. The name still carries weight. The history is still there. But the moment riders see the final number, something changes. The dream starts feeling like a payment trap. The trade offer feels light. The old bike in the garage starts looking smarter. That is why 2026 could be Harley's last chance. Not because the company disappears tomorrow, but because the riders who kept it alive may decide they do not need a new Harley anymore. And once that habit breaks, no slogan brings it back easily. Stay until the end, because once you see what is happening behind the sales numbers, the dealer floor starts looking a lot different. The silent deadline. Harley-Davidson still has factories, dealers, loyal owners, and famous motorcycles. The danger is that the lights stay on while fewer riders walk through the door with real intent to buy. That kind of decline is harder to see at first. It does not arrive with a locked gate or a headline saying the brand is finished. It shows up in smaller ways. A rider keeps his old Road King another season. A man looks at a new Street Glide, smiles, then asks for the out-the-door number, and goes quiet. A longtime customer still loves the company, but starts loving it from a distance. Love is powerful, but love is not a purchase order. Pride does not make the monthly payment. Nostalgia does not refill the showroom floor. And a logo, no matter how strong, cannot carry a business forever if the deal underneath it stops making sense. The first proof was not gossip from a forum. It came from the sales line. And that is where the warning became harder to deny. The sales alarm. The company's own results showed the first hard receipt. Global retail motorcycle sales fell 12% in 2025, landing around 132,535 units. Shipments fell 16% for the year. That means Harley was not just watching fewer riders buy motorcycles, it was also sending fewer motorcycles into the pipeline. That matters, because shipments tell you what the factory believes the market can absorb. When a company pulls that lever back, it is usually trying to avoid stuffing dealers with bikes that customers are not taking home fast enough. That can be smart. It can protect dealers from drowning in inventory. But it also tells you demand is not where the brand wants it to be. For riders, this is not just boardroom math. Fewer bikes moving means less heat around the showroom. Fewer fresh models on the floor, fewer customers talking trades, fewer accessory packages, fewer Saturday mornings where the place feels alive. A Harley dealership feeds on movement. And when movement slows, everybody feels it. The problem is turning that care into new bike sales. A rider can defend the company at breakfast, then refuse the price sheet at noon. That gap is where the trouble lives. But selling fewer motorcycles was only the first alarm. The colder warning came when the profit line started showing damage. Hit like if you still want Harley to get this right. And comment below with one thing the company must fix first. Price, dealers, service, or the bikes themselves. Profit took the hit. A premium motorcycle company is supposed to make strong money when it sells fewer units. That is the point of premium pricing. You sell emotion, quality, image, and the kind of machine people are willing to stretch for. But in 2025, the Harley-Davidson Motor Company side posted an operating loss of about $29 million. That is not just a soft quarter, that is the core motorcycle business taking a hit. That number matters because the motorcycle side is the heart of the brand. Clothing helps, financing helps, parts help. But the motorcycles carry the flag. If that side weakens, the pressure moves through the whole system. Costs get watched harder. Dealer support gets measured tighter. Product decisions become more cautious. And riders eventually notice changes in the places they actually use the brand. This is where the conversation gets real. Premium paint does not protect a weak profit line. A strong logo does not erase lower volume, tariffs, higher costs, and weaker operating leverage. The company can still build a great touring bike and still have a business model under strain. That does not mean every bike is bad. It does not mean every dealer is in trouble. It means the machine behind the machines is not as comfortable as it used to be. When that happens, the pressure never stays in the corporate office for long. Sooner or later, it reaches the place riders can see with their own eyes. Empty space talks. A Harley store was never supposed to feel thin. It was supposed to feel like a place where the weekend started early. Rows of bikes, jackets on the wall, someone talking pipes at the parts counter. Maybe a new rider trying to act calm while staring at the bike he really wants. That atmosphere is part of the product. You do not just buy a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. You buy into a world that is supposed to be waiting for you after the papers are signed. So, when dealer inventory gets pulled down, the effect is not just financial, it changes the room. Harley reported global dealer inventory down 17% at the end of 2025. By the first quarter of 2026, global dealer inventory was down 22% from the year before. On paper, that can be healthy. Less excess inventory can protect prices and stop dealers from getting buried. But on the floor, lean inventory has a second meaning. It can make the place feel cautious. A cautious dealer changes how customers behave. They ask more questions. They shop harder. They wait for incentives. They compare used bikes. They talk to friends before signing anything. The old confidence gets replaced by calculation. And even when the right bike is sitting there, washed and ready, the next fight is waiting at the desk. The payment trap. Every rider knows that moment. The bike already got under your skin. You sat on it. You pictured the first long ride. Maybe you thought about bags, a windshield, a better seat, or a different exhaust. Then the final sheet comes out, and the whole mood changes. The sticker is only the opening move. Then come fees, taxes, insurance, interest, warranty choices, accessories, and whatever else gets stacked into the deal. A motorcycle that felt exciting 5 minutes earlier starts feeling like a second truck payment. That is where a lot of buyers stop dreaming and start protecting their household. This is not because riders got cheap. Most riders understand quality costs money. They also understand when the deal no longer feels square. A man who has been buying motorcycles for decades knows the difference between paying for a machine and being squeezed by a structure around the machine. Harley has always been expensive. That was never new. The difference now is that the economy made people less willing to pretend. Groceries cost more. Insurance costs more. Interest rates have been hard on big-ticket toys. And a motorcycle, no matter how much you love it, still has to survive the kitchen table. The bike still speaks. The payment interrupts. That is the problem. But the hardest rival for that new Harley may not be parked across the street. Sometimes it is already sitting at home. Paid off beats new. The strongest competitor Harley faces is not always Indian, Honda, Bayerische Motorenwerke motorcycles, Yamaha, Kawasaki, or Triumph. A lot of times, it is the paid-off motorcycle already in the garage. That old Road King, that ultra classic, that Softail that still starts, still sounds right, and still carries every road the owner ever put under it. That bike has advantages no new model can easily beat. It owes nobody anything. The seat already fits. The bars are already where they should be. The windshield has been figured out. The bags carry what they need to carry. The owner knows the sounds, the quirks, and the little things that would scare a stranger, but mean nothing to him. That is a powerful kind of loyalty. It is not anti-Harley. It is almost too Harley. The old machine already gave the rider what the brand promised. Freedom, pride, miles, and a feeling that something mechanical still belongs to him. So when a salesman says the new bike has more technology, more power, and more polish, the rider listens. But then he looks back at the old bike and asks a simple question. What am I really gaining for this payment? If that answer is not strong, he stays put, not angry, not dramatic, just gone from the new bike market for another year. And if longtime riders keep what they have, Harley needs new riders to step into the story. Too far to start. Every strong motorcycle culture needs an entry point. Not a fake one, a real one. A bike that a newer rider can afford, respect, ride, customize, and eventually trade up from. That first machine matters, because it teaches the customer what the brand feels like. If the first Harley never happens, the second Harley never happens either. That is where the latter has looked weak. Younger buyers are dealing with rent, insurance, student debt, trucks, fuel, and a market full of cheaper alternatives. Some still admire Harley-Davidson, But admiration does not always bring them through the door. If the first step costs too much, they start somewhere else. That does not mean younger riders have no interest in cruisers. It means Harley has to give them a reason to begin. A machine cannot just be cheaper. It has to feel like it belongs. It has to look right in the parking lot. It has to sound honest enough. It has to leave room for parts, personality, and pride. Older riders understand this because most of them started somewhere reachable. Maybe it was used, maybe it was rough, maybe it was not the dream bike yet. But it opened the door. That door is what Harley needs to rebuild. If the path into the brand gets too narrow, the culture gets older without replacing itself. And that is why the next affordable move carries more risk than it looks. The entry gamble. A lower-priced Harley sounds simple until you understand what it has to do. It cannot just be a cheap motorcycle with a famous name on it. Cheap is not the same as accessible. Accessible means a rider feels invited into something bigger. Cheap means he feels like he bought the version the company made when it got nervous. That is why the sprint idea matters. It is not just about price. It is about whether Harley can build a first step that does not feel like an apology. If the machine brings new riders into dealerships, creates parts sales, starts friendships, and makes people want the next bike, it can help. If it feels like a discount sign wearing a bar and shield, riders will smell it fast. The same goes for the Sportster name. That name carries weight. For a lot of people, a Sportster was the first real Harley they understood. It was simple, raw, narrow enough to handle, and tough enough to make a rider feel like he earned it. Bringing that name back means Harley is touching memory, not just product strategy. That can work, but only if the motorcycle earns the reaction. Riders forgive basic. They forgive affordable. They do not forgive fake. If Harley wants a new entry point, it has to feel like the first chapter of the same book, not a side project. But a new model cannot fix a broken ownership system by itself. Back to reality. Harley's Back to the Bricks plan sounds like a return to basics, and that is probably why the name was chosen. It points back to dealers, riders, products, and the basic work of selling motorcycles people actually want. That is good language, but it also admits something important. If a company has to go back to basics, then something about the basics went wrong. The plan talks about dealer health, cost savings, better alignment between wholesale and retail demand, stronger parts and accessories, and more disciplined execution. Put that in plain rider language, and it means Harley knows the old system was under strain. Too much pressure on dealers. Too much mismatch between factory ambition and showroom reality. Too much distance between what riders wanted and what the company needed to sell. That admission matters. Riders have been saying for years that the company needed to listen harder to the people at ground level. Dealers know what walks in. Service writers know what comes back. Parts counters know what owners actually buy. Riders in the parking lot know what feels right before a spreadsheet ever sees it. The plan could be a real reset. It could also become another phrase that sounds good in a presentation. The difference will be felt locally, not announced nationally. Because a plan from the top means nothing if ownership still feels weaker after the sale. After the sale ends. Ownership starts. That is where Harley either proves itself or loses ground quietly. The real test is not just the day a rider takes delivery. It is the first time he needs a part. The first time he asks about a warranty issue. The first time his bike sits in service longer than expected. The first time he wants the seat, bars, windshield, or suspension corrected for real miles. Harley riders are not casual customers. Many know their machines. They know when the mechanic understands the bike. They know when the parts counter is guessing. They know when a dealer is trying to help and when it is just trying to move them along. That matters because Harley ownership has always been built after the sale. Parts and accessories are not side business. They are the way riders make the machine theirs. Service is not just repair, it is trust. A good dealer can keep a customer for decades. A bad experience can make a loyal rider start looking at used bikes, independent shops, or other brands. This is where Back to the Bricks has to prove it is more than a slogan. If dealer support improves, riders will notice. If parts availability, staff knowledge, and service confidence improve, the brand gets stronger where it matters most. But before many riders ever reach that counter, the finance office can stop the whole thing cold when riders walk. This is different from sticker shock. Sticker shock happens when the price feels high. The finance office becomes the hard stop when the whole structure of the deal feels wrong. Trade value, approval terms, interest rate, down payment, warranty choices, monthly number. Suddenly, the motorcycle is not just being judged as a machine, it is being judged as a financial decision. That is where Harley has a delicate problem. Its customers are loyal, but they are not helpless. A man can love the bike and still hate the deal. He can respect the brand and still refuse to sign. He can afford the payment and still decide it is not smart. Trade values make this even sharper. If a rider thinks his current Harley should be worth more, the conversation gets personal fast. That motorcycle is not just metal to him. It has trips, repairs, upgrades, and years of care in it. When the number comes back low, it can feel like the dealership is not just undervaluing the bike. It is undervaluing the ownership history. That is how a deal dies without shouting. The buyer nods, takes the paper, says he will think about it, and leaves. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he does not. Maybe he starts checking another showroom on the way home. And when that happens, Harley is no longer the only place he can go. The exit problem. Other brands do not need to become Harley-Davidson to hurt Harley-Davidson. That is the part people miss. They do not have to steal the whole identity. They only need to give riders enough reasons to pause. A lower payment, a stronger warranty, a more comfortable touring setup, a lighter feel, a dealer that seems easier to work with, a used bike that looks like better value. That is market fragmentation, and it is dangerous because it does not feel like betrayal. A rider can still respect Harley. He can still own the jacket. He can still remember the bikes he loved. He can still stop at a rally and talk Harley history for an hour. Then he can spend his money somewhere else because the deal made more sense. That is the loyalty leak. It is quiet. It is not always emotional. Sometimes it is just practical. Someone wants comfort, reliability, range, wind protection, or a payment that does not fight the household budget. If another motorcycle gets close enough, the old automatic Harley choice becomes less automatic. Harley still owns something powerful. No rival has fully replaced that feel. But the market no longer forces riders down one road. There are more exits now, and once a rider takes one, winning him back gets harder. The damage does not stop with one missed sale. When enough money leaves the Harley lane, the wider world around the brand starts feeling it too. Beyond the factory, the Harley world is bigger than Harley-Davidson. It includes independent shops, custom builders, seat makers, exhaust companies, paint guys, tire sellers, used bike dealers, rally vendors, and mechanics who know these machines better than some corporate offices ever will. When new bike demand weakens, that whole ecosystem pays attention. A strong Harley market feeds more than the factory. New bikes become used bikes. Used bikes become projects. Projects need pipes, bars, seats, cams, lighting, luggage, windshields, and repairs. Riders trade stories, compare setups, and keep local shops busy. That is how a motorcycle culture stays alive outside official channels. If fewer riders enter the pipeline, the effects spread slowly. Maybe the custom shop sees fewer fresh builds. Maybe a rally vendor moves less gear. Maybe an independent mechanic gets more old bike maintenance, but less performance work. Maybe a parts company starts watching inventory more carefully. None of that makes headlines right away, but it changes the health of the scene. This matters because Harley culture was never only corporate. In many ways, riders and shops built the emotional value for the company. They made the machines personal. They kept older bikes alive. They created the look, sound, and attitude that the brand later sold back to the world. So when Harley struggles, it is not just Milwaukee's problem. The ripple reaches every garage business built around those motorcycles. And the pressure does not stop with parts counters and rally tents. American pride on edge. A motorcycle company can carry a town's pride. It can carry family jobs, supplier relationships, local business, and the feeling that something made in America still has weight in the world. That is why Harley's struggle lands differently than trouble at an ordinary company. When motorcycle demand softens, workers notice, suppliers notice, shipping companies notice, small businesses around plants and dealerships notice. Nobody needs a dramatic shutdown to feel uncertainty. Sometimes it shows up in tighter schedules, cautious hiring, smaller orders, reduced overtime, or harder conversations about where money should go next. This is where the story becomes bigger than one rider's next purchase. Harley-Davidson has always been sold as more than transportation. It represents work, manufacturing, road culture, and a certain old American stubbornness. People can debate how much of that image is still true, but they cannot deny the power it had. That is why riders get angry when they feel the company drifting. They are not just arguing about horsepower or paint. They are arguing about whether a piece of American motorcycling is being managed by people who understand what they inherited. There is also a policy side under all of this. Tariffs, inflation, emissions rules, supply costs, and global competition are not garage myths. They affect what gets built, where it gets built, and what it costs when it reaches the floor. But investors see a very different Harley than riders do. Lean versus real. Investors want cleaner numbers. They want cost discipline, better margins, lower inventory risk, stronger cash flow, and a plan that proves management has control. That is not evil. A company that ignores financial reality does not protect riders for long. But the danger is cutting so hard that the business looks leaner while the brand feels smaller. Riders do not buy efficiency. They buy machines worth defending. They buy the sound, the stance, the parts book, the dealer relationship, the memory of the first long ride, and the idea that the motorcycle still says something true about them. If the company forgets that, it can improve a spreadsheet and weaken the reason people cared in the first place. That is the tightrope. Harley has to reduce costs without sanding off the rough edge. It has to attract new riders without insulting old ones. It has to modernize without acting embarrassed by its past. It has to satisfy investors without turning into a lifestyle label that happens to sell motorcycles. This is not impossible. Harley has come through ugly times before, but every comeback had one thing in common. Riders had to believe the company was still on their side, not just selling to them, not just using their memories, actually listening. That leaves the final question. What exactly is Harley trying to save? Riders decide now. 2026 is not just about whether Harley-Davidson can keep building motorcycles. It can. The harder question is whether riders still believe those motorcycles belong in their lives. That is the trust test, and it is bigger than one model, one quarter, or one press release. The company has some signs of life. First quarter retail sales improved, especially in North America. Dealer inventory came down. The turnaround plan has a clearer direction than vague optimism. Those are not nothing, but a rebound only matters if it grows into confidence. One good quarter does not erase years of hesitation. Harley needs riders to feel the difference, not just hear it. Feel it in the showroom, feel it in the finance office, feel it at the service counter, feel it when a new entry bike looks honest, feel it when a touring bike feels built for real miles, not just a brochure photo. Feel it when a dealer treats a trade like it has a story behind it. That is how trust returns. Slowly, practically, one good decision at a time. The clock is not only on Milwaukee, it is in garages across the country, where old Harleys still sit ready, paid for, familiar, and stubborn. Those bikes are not waiting for a slogan. Neither are the riders. Harley is not out of motorcycles. It is running out of patience. And 2026 may be the year the riders decide whether the road still runs through that orange and black sign. Harley still has the name, the history, and the machines riders respect. But respect only lasts when the company keeps earning it. If you think Harley can still turn this around, comment your take below. like the video if this felt honest, and subscribe for more straight motorcycle truth without the corporate spin.